And so I'm gonna. Okay, so I'm calling the May 19th, 2020 council meeting to order at 7:05. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Next order of business is the roll call. Mr. Antel,
Present.
Mr. Bartko,
Present.
Mrs. Miller, are you on yet? Absent so far, but hopefully he's going to get on. Mrs. Davis,
Present.
Mr. Fenn?
I'm here as Betty.
Okay. Okay, and Mr. Polyak
Here.
is here. All right, so we have the next order of business is the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay, I think Heather was first on that. So Betty, are you to snuff? You want to
No,
go?
I can't hear anything that's being said.
Okay, I'll continue with that then.
Okay.
Mr. Antel?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. or Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Polyak?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bartko?
Yes.
And Mr. Fenn?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mrs. Miller, are you on? I don't know. Okay. Next, we have open forum. We have someone who wants to speak during open forum, and Mr. Polyak, who is hosting tonight.
Mr. Mayor, currently no members of the public have submitted to speak in open forum. Just a quick reminder, if they would choose to want to participate in open forum, they can go to the Q&A button and put their name in and ask to be recognized, and we would do so.
Okay. I'm making a note that we have no speakers at this point. All right. We don't.
Can someone tell me why I can't hear anything?
You're probably muted. Well, is your audio on down at the bottom? The next thing next to video.
Good question. That may be my answer. Who knows? Yep,
No
that's
problem.
it. Talk to me.
Mayor, you have one
I got
member
it.
of the public that has put their hand up
Okay.
to participate. Would you like them to be recognized? They have a hand up. We've asked that they go to the Q&A and put their name in. There's a Q&A button for them to be able to do so. But I just want you to know that there is a member of the public that has their hand, that they've pressed the button to
Press
put
the
their
button,
hand
put
up.
their hand up. That means they want to speak.
Let me go to Q&A and ask them so I can join the meeting. Hi, guys.
Maybe it was Janet, right?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Janet.
Close those windows.
Okay.
I can see you, but I only can see. What's that?
All right, so Don, we don't
Betty.
know who
Hi,
that
Janet.
person is who wants to speak.
No.
Well, the rules that we passed last week, when we put this into effect, that say let people speak, they needed to tell us who they are and give us their address. So at this point, I guess we don't let them speak. if that's agreeable with the rest of council.
Yeah, this person was on last week. This is the same one that was on last week, so we've explained the rules if they'd like to speak.
Okay. The rules are there, so they have to explain what they, who they are and whatever. So the next order of business then is for us to go into our legislation for the evening. We don't have any ordinances to consider. We do have a resolution, which I will read. The title, Resolution 2020-5-22, a resolution temporarily suspending the annual transfer of the municipal income tax revenue to the park fund and declaring an emergency. So that is our first reading. Do we have a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule so we can consider this?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Mrs. Klingenberg, are you ready to take a roll call? Take a roll call vote then. We hear,
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenn.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay. So the motion to suspend the 3 reading rule has carried. You now ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-5-22.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, Mr. Antel made that motion. And
Second with discussion, please.
absolutely. And Mrs. Miller made the second. So what this is we have some money in the fund, and I think our fiscal officer could possibly better explain what this ordinance or this resolution is about.
I'd be happy to. We have about $17,000 in the fund, and we don't actually need the 15,000 now. We may be sorry, depending upon how much the COVID-19 takes their general fund down. So we're keeping it in there for a while. So we're set, we're okay right now. We can't transfer back out of the park fund, but we can transfer in. So it's better to suspend that momentarily for a while and see if we need it.
So depending on what happens here with what we decide on the pool,
Right.
we may not need that money in there. We may need it, and we can transfer it in. But if it's in there and we need it somewhere else, we cannot transfer it out. Is that correct, Mrs. Klingenberg? Just say, is it correct? We can't, what you just explained, we can't transfer it back out.
No.
Right.
We
Okay.
want to keep it in general fund until we need it this year, for this year.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? I see none. So we have Resolution 2020-5-22. And we're ready for a roll call.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mr. Bartko.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion passes, becomes Resolution 2020-5-22. At this point in time, since we had a meeting last week, this is close together because normally we would be having this next Tuesday, but because of Memorial Day being next Monday, we had moved the schedule at the beginning of the year. So this is the night we're meeting. So I don't know of any old business. Does anyone have any old business there? Seeing none, I'll move to new business. I don't see any new business. Executive session, I know of no reason. So I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I have a question really quickly.
Okay.
Sorry. I didn't know if it
No,
would be
that's
under
okay.
old
I
business.
mean, is-
I didn't know if it was under old business.
Whatever. Okay.
So this, at this moment, you're running a council meeting and then you're going to be opening up a finance meeting? Is that where we're at?
That's correct.
Okay, then
That's the
go
way
ahead.
we set this up at the beginning of the
Right.
year. And we've been doing it for a couple of months like this.
Yes, I understand, but I missed the beginning of I missed the opening of I missed the beginning because I couldn't get online. I was having some
I'm sorry.
assistance.
Well, yeah, I figured you were there, you would get on. So we got we didn't cover anything,
Got you.
any legislation. We did do the Pledge of Allegiance, so you want to revisit
Yeah.
that.
I make a
Okay.
motion to suspend. I mean, I make a motion to adjourn.
I got one question. I'm with Ron Antel. Who is Samsung SMJ727B?
That's on the attendees.
That's an attendee, and that's the device they're on, which is like a smart TV or a monitor.
Right.
I chatted with that person. I asked them to identify themselves, and they did not respond.
Oh, all
Okay.
right.
All right.
I'm just wondering who that is.
All right. So in effect, we had a motion for adjournment, or I asked for one. Do we have that?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All right. So I'm looking on the screen and I see all the hands up. So we're good. We're adjourned at 7:16. All right. Thank you. So now, I don't know how much time we need in between, but now we will go to the finance meeting. We need none. And so I sort of hand off the chairmanship to Mr. Polyak, who's the president pro tem and in charge of finance. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you continuing to record on your device?
Yes.
Okay, and you also have the
Stop.
backup of the recording
We're
device as
recording
our
on-
backup?
We're recording on both devices just in case one of them fails or something.
All right, fantastic. Why don't we go ahead and call to order the May 19th finance meeting at 7:17 p.m. And let the record show that all members of council are present at the finance meeting. We'll go ahead and move right into the mayor's report. Does everybody have, if you don't have an agenda in front of you, you can look. I think Betty emailed it out a couple days ago as well, if you need a copy of the agenda. So
Right.
Mayor, could you go ahead and open it up? Well, before you begin,
Yes.
Mayor,
Okay, so the
I'd li-
mayor's
I'd like-
report, basically,
Mayor,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, just 1 second. I'd like to also remind members of the public that if they wish to participate or ask questions, to use the Q&A button and go ahead and identify yourself so that the chair can recognize you and just state that you have a question or put your name, I think name, address, and the fact that you have a question in the Q&A, and I will recognize you in the virtual meeting. I'll bring you on so that you can be recognized and with your questions. So you would just be able to do that by using the Q&A button that's on the toolbar as a member of the public. So thank you, and I'll keep an eye on making sure that if anybody has that, I'll watch for that. All right, thanks. Sorry, Mayor, to cut you off. If you could begin your report.
all right, so what I sent out to all of you were the latest report that came from Columbus, and that was on the local and public pools and aquatic centers, the information that we'd want to consider. But you had that to look at. Hopefully you can use that information, if you review that, to help in answering any questions here, or asking any questions, I should say, that we have of Dave Hastings, who's the owner of our management company for the pool for the past 4 or 5 years. So I asked Mr. Hastings, and he volunteered to join us tonight to answer any of your questions about how we would get this open and what some of the problems may or may not be. So Mr. Hastings, you need to unmute yourself, sir.
Well, I'm basically here to answer questions, so give me, what would you like me to answer?
Oh, what questions? Well, for instance, you and I talked about opening the pool and some of the things, and we talked about you would have the lifeguards, but some of the rules, for those of you who reviewed the Ohio standards, was to have someone to sort of check people in and out of the pool. And that would, when we only have one lifeguard there, that would be very difficult for us to do that operation. So as a result, we need to consider, and I asked Mr. Hastings what we might do in that instance. And he said, well, we might be able to hire someone from his staff to work, maybe not the full shift, but the peak times or whatever. Mr. Hastings, I don't know, could you elaborate on that a little bit, what that might look like?
Sure. And to be clear, I just got off the phone about an hour ago with a guy by the name of Tom Sink, who's the manager for the Cuyahoga County Department of Health. I realize you're not Cuyahoga County, but usually the counties work together, and a lot of them will take the lead of Cuyahoga County. It's actually considered one of the better health departments in the state. And Tom Fink is at the top of it. That said, I was asking him about some clarification questions because that guideline is, quite frankly, I don't really want to go there, how bad I think it was. So he gave me a lot of additional information, but additionally, they're expecting potentially more information, more clarification, even some items that might contradict what's already been posted tomorrow. We expect it to be delivered tomorrow or posted on the website tomorrow. Whether they do or not, we'll see. So that said, one of the clarification items was you do not actually need a designated person to enforce maximum occupancy and or social distancing issues. A facility such as your own on many, many days that wouldn't reach maximum capacity, so long as they're self-policing, let's say, and by the way, maximum capacity, there's no guidelines on that either. Ohio is one of about 15 states in the country that doesn't actually have a maximum capacity for swimming pool, fenced-in areas like you see at a hotel room or office room or hotel meeting room. This, room has a maximum of 100, let's say. Ohio is one of maybe 15 states or so that does not have that. So they're leaving it up to you, the organization of the facility, the owner of the facility, if you will, to come up with whatever method you want that essentially achieves the goal of people staying 6 feet plus away from each other, both inside of the gated fenced-in area, as well as in the water itself, remembering that households do not need to practice social distancing. So it gets pretty confusing. So first you have to establish how many people you're going to let into the fenced-in area, then how many people you want allow maximum in the pool, general numbers, and then so long as they achieve that social distancing and things look good, you don't actually need to hire an extra person just to monitor the gate. Now, you post out on the outside of the gate, maximum occupancy within the fenced-in area is 50, and here comes 5 more people, and clearly there's already 50, 55, maybe a head count, whatever, and they decide to walk in, you may not have anybody to enforce that. I can tell you this, and the health departments agree with us wholeheartedly on this, lifeguards are lifeguards, and they will be lifeguarding. And if they have other tasks or responsibilities previously agreed to last year when things were normal, right, they'll still do those things, whatever that might be, test and record the water chemistry for one, during their 15-minute break. And that in and of itself is a little ironic because what's a break mean? Break means you don't work. You take a break. No, we just give them other duties and we'll call it break. So I push back very hard when you're going to tell me my lifeguard's got to do these things when they're supposed to actually get a break for 15 minutes every hour when it's 90 degrees out. So keep that in mind. And I understand we do have some sort of pass system at your facility in the past where we actually collected passes and put them in some sort of box, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be. But if that's the case, we're not going to be doing that anymore because we're not going to touch anything anymore. Additionally, my lifeguards will not be responsible for sanitizing. Will they police the bathroom if there's a bathroom to police? Yes, they'll police it, but we're not going to be sanitizing it because we already have enough duties as it is, even on break time. So that's a little bit of clarification right now. I can tell you this, that you can close your bathrooms. Ohio code requires one bathroom, minimum of one bathroom to be open, so long as it's available for unisex and labeled for unisex. So to minimize sanitation and working and the possible spread and all that stuff, you can just have one bathroom open.
I know one of the other things you mentioned, Dave, there was the fact that when I mentioned the lounge chairs and the chairs we have, in addition to the tables are bolted down. So that would be one thing we could, we'd have to clean in some manner after every person uses it. And you suggested that the other chairs and loungers that we don't put any out, and we recommend to our pool users to bring their own chairs with them. So I want to just share that with the council here, and I'm not certain how that would be taken by the users of the pool, but I mean that is one option to try and abide by the rules. Now, if you heard what the governor did today, he made it something that says this is not really an order, but we're making it, each one of you in Ohio is responsible for the other person to do the right thing. So we're all watching each other on this. So that's the thing we have to decide if that's going to be a policy that people are going to go with or not. I mean, we're ready to open the pool if we decide here tonight. Ready as far as the village goes at getting everything ready to go. Mr. Hastings has said that they will have it uncovered and up and running, and we usually open like Labor Day weekend, which is next weekend. So I don't know if it'd be ready exactly that day, but it would be close to being ready if that's what we choose to do.
To be clear,
another option I think that Mr. Hastings has was that as the rules open up and they sort of do away with the 6-foot distancing, that we might be able to open up limited wise or just maintain the pool until we're allowed to open it as we normally would have. So, Dave, what you want to comment on that?
Sure. A few things there. First of all, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. It's in 4 days. Memorial Day weekend is this Saturday. It starts this Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
You are not allowed to use your pool by state order until Tuesday, the 26th, a week from today.
Right.
Today's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So a week from today is the first day you'll be allowed to use your pool if you choose to use your pool.
Okay.
We'll have it up and running and staffed on that day if that's what you guys ultimately determine. Secondly, 6-foot distancing, 6-foot social distancing is not going to go away. You can etch that in stone. It'll be here until the fall, until this pool is closed. So we will have to maintain social distancing throughout the course of the summer if you're going to open the facility. And again, my lifeguards are not going to be maintaining social distancing, and they're not going to be maintaining sanitation things, if you will. That said, it doesn't mean we can't hire somebody from us or you have a volunteer, whatnot. The tables that you talk about that are bolted down, you have a choice to allow people to use them, or you can rope them off, tape them off, whatever, and prohibit them from being used. If they are going to be used, they have to be sanitized every 2 hours, just like the bathrooms and other public use areas. It's every 2 hours. They'll need to be somehow sanitized. Are yours wooden picnic tables?
Metal.
Oh, they're metal. Okay. All right.
They're those painted metal tables, Dave, that water runs through, and they probably are better sanitized than wood would be.
Sure. You would have to provide the sanitizing supplies, whether we did it or not. But I can tell you one thing very easily, you have chlorine there, liquid chlorine, and it's concentrated, so it's stronger than bleach. So what really, it's probably, my guess is about an eighth of a cup to a gallon of water. And you've got a good solid chlorine sanitizing, that is approved by the FDA or EPA or some letters, I don't know.
Mhm.
But you have the product right there. You can easily spray on, put it in a bottle, label it, spray it right on, or somehow have an application of a rag or something that can be wiped all over every 2 hours. And away you go. But again, if you want to avoid that, you could also rope them off and say, please bring, I mean, who wouldn't understand, but maybe some people don't. Please bring your own chairs and or table. I'd want to bring my own chair, that's for sure. But who am I?
Well, I think there are a lot of people out there that, at least a few that I've talked to, that said, yeah, I don't know that I'd want to do this because I'm going to be around. But then there are others, I'm sure, that probably would like to use it. So that's why it's a decision that I don't really want to make on my own. I can, but I want to have council input on this as to which direction you want to go.
I'd like to
There
add
are-
in this conversation that Chief Charlie Riedel has said that he is right now a member of the public in the meeting, and he wants to make sure that all the members here tonight, if there's any questions that they would have for Charlie, from a EMS, fire, roads, he's available, and we could bring him into the meeting if necessary, if anybody has that as a request. And then Mr. Hastings too, I just want to make sure, was there anything in the policy? Are the kids still allowed to have fun at the pool?
I know. Yeah, I get it. No, we're thinking of eliminating that as well, just in case. But yeah, honestly, I can tell you, and I told you already that we will not be in charge of this or, sanitizing or, enforcement of social distancing. Well, certainly of social distancing, that's going to be hard for a 16, 17-year-old to tell some 30-year-olds if they're hell-bent on, not listening, they're going to be not listening, But that said, so what I share with you now, because this is new for you, this is new for me, right? None of us have been through this before. So that's what our current policy is. If somehow you guys came up with an idea, let's say, hey, instead of closing for 15 minutes every hour, Dave, why don't we close, 25 minutes or 20, maybe 25 minutes every other hour? Would your lifeguard then be willing to, spray down our tables, spray down our handrails, sanitize our bathroom if we give you an extra 10 or 15 minutes every 2 hours? I would tell you that's something I would consider, but again,
Okay.
and there's, I've got 60 plus facilities where we staff lifeguards, and I have another 100 commercial facilities where we don't staff lifeguards. And so when we've got facilities now saying, hey, even the 100 that we don't staff at, we would like to hire, a gatekeeper, monitor, pool attendant. First of all, it's 150 pool attendants. I'd have to hire more than that, 2 or 3 per pool. And then secondly, I need to train them on what is good sanitation, how to use the products properly and how long to keep it on. And then I got to monitor them, because this isn't just a gate pass checker. This is a real deal. And so there's a lot more to it. As much as I want to be helpful, heck, from a business point of view, it's an opportunity for me, but there's a whole lot more involved than just a business opportunity. So that's, I'm open to conversations and modifying my position every day as we learn more. So that's all I can tell you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. I want to step back a minute to Charlie. Didn't want to speak, but Charlie and I spoke about this, and we talked about the fact that we have a 5-member road crew that this time of the year, they have mowing, they have a lot of things going on to keep up with. This is not something where we could dedicate someone to go down to the pool and do that unless we were willing to give something up. And there's a lot to do right now. Some things that we do that we don't actually get all the way through at this point in time. So that's one thing to consider. That's not a source. When Mr. Hastings volunteered that he might be willing to look at other options with that, I thought, well, let's hear what he has to say and see if the group is interested in having us work with them to see what that would look like. The other option was, or the other thought that we had when we talked on the phone the other day, Dave, was the fact that who knows, maybe the middle of July or the middle of June even, they might lessen the impact. And we might say, all right, well, here now we could go ahead and open the pool kind of up the way it is. But what I want all of you here in this meeting to understand is we have to keep that pool alive. We have to maintain it. And as Dave says, his people will have to get it opened up. We'll have to put chemicals in it. We'll have it running. Every couple of weeks, they'll check it and make sure the chemicals are right and all that, even though no one's using it. Because otherwise, if we just let it go, the algae just goes rampant and we'd have to replace water and it could do other damage to the integrity of the plumbing and that, correct, Dave?
Correct.
Right. So those are things we're going to need to spend some money on it just to keep it intact without actually opening it. So, I mean, that's like another option there, is to say, we go ahead and maintain it. And if things change in the state in a month or 2 months, and we want to try and open it for that, I mean, that's a thought. We talked about that with Dave, but I don't know, Dave, how would you be able to get lifeguards to do that, staff for like June or July on to August?
I'd figure out a way. That's our job. We get lifeguards to you one way or another.
Oh, okay. All right. So those are kind of the options. I don't know what are there. I'm gonna open it up to council. Are there any thoughts or questions that you have for any of them?
Mr. Antal?
Does anyone have a good reason we should open the pool? From everything I've heard, are we basically trying to save the Edmund Fitzgerald here?
The pool is definitely enjoyed by those that that go to it. There's some loyal people who really highly value that asset in the community. But I mean, that's that balance here. I mean, if this wasn't happening, would we be opening the pool normally? I'd probably say we would be, but
And because
I'm kind of on this side of let's close it permanently. Like I think this thing's just done. I think we close it. I think we have a serious discussion about closing it permanently. That's my opinion to have a discussion about it.
okay. Anyone else want to?
Well, like Ron Antel has his opinion. I'm with Don Polyak. There's a membership to the pool, and I think people appreciate having the pool as a village commodity. And I think closing the pool would be a big detriment to the village. That's my opinion.
Don, do you want to speak?
A discussion a while ago with people about the pool, and they chose to, I think before I was on council, they chose that they wanted the pool. Am I correct with that?
Heather, that was correct, but most of the people that attended that meeting were people who do not live in the village.
Oh, okay.
And they're the one, I think more, Betty, do you know how many people actually, memberships live in the village versus don't live in the village?
You're muted.
Hold on, Betty.
And I wish I were.
Go ahead, Betty, you were on mute. Could you start all over?
Sure. I apologize for not being prepared. However, I can easily find that out and send out an email to that effect.
And Ron, I think it is I mean, I think there's a big chunk of folks that don't live in the
Right.
village that use the pool.
I think in going down the list over the last couple of years, we've looked at that. It's at least a 50% or greater influx from around the communities around us. But,
So can I make a comment?
Yep, Mrs. Miller.
I have several comments to make. Responding to Dawn, Responding to Heather, I don't know why I called you Dawn. It must be this isolation, isolation brain. You are correct in that we did have public input about the pool, and I thought it was pretty much the recent past about the pool and keeping what I was actually surprised. I don't know about the rest of you. I was surprised at the turnout, the public turnout. There were a lot, and the people that came to that meeting were village members of the Village of Boston. I mean, they've lived in the Village of Boston Heights. I recognize a lot of people from Village. Even if they hadn't used the pool in years, they were really grateful that we had it for the years that they did use it when they had children, or as they were looking to the future that they may be using it again. So we talked about permanently closing the pool with Mr. Antel once before, and we at that time entertained it, and that's why we had the public meeting about the pool. I agree with Don Polyak that there should be a balance that we strike, and I can understand the mayor's and Mr. Hastings' requirement and to maintain the pool, keep the pool safe, and maintain it chemically. I'm not sure about it being open to the public. I am having a lot of reservations about that part. And I wanted to mention that there's the social distancing, in my opinion, and from what I've read from trying to do as much input and research as I can, is that even in a pool with chlorine where you're killing the virus in the actual water, you're maintaining a social distance of 6 feet. Those droplets still are in the air, and they last and live in the air for at least up to 3 hours. I'd also like to note that we have a metal fence, and the virus lives on metal for days. And I think that the idea of bringing your own chairs is a great idea. Maybe removing the tables just so people have towels on the ground. I mean, I think there's a balance that could be reached. I'm not sure that we're quite there. So I would support maintaining the pool. I would just need to have everyone else's input in terms of actually opening it to the public just yet, if we're really not sure how bad this and widespread the virus is, and what we need to do to keep each other safe. So that's my input. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I asked? I understand that the guards can't be lifeguards and social distancing guards. I mean, we can only ask so much. I appreciate Mr. Hastings coming in and giving us and being so willing to have so many options and to be so flexible with us. That's very reassuring. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Anything else, Mr. Don?
I guess for me, and that really strong and powerful lobbying contingent that always talks about moving Halloween. They were very interested in this topic as well, and rightfully so. I think there's a lot of families and kids that right now our local park. I feel overwhelmingly lucky that I live in Boston Heights and be able to have the hike and bike that we live on. I think that that's been an amazing thing for the mental health and the physical health of my family as we've been through this quarantine. And I would like to see us come together, whether it be with over-the-top signage, if we have to if we have to somehow, it seems like Mr. Hastings is a very reasonable and also good partner that we could work with on finding a way that we can come together to be able to offer this as an opening. I think it could be just, I mean, people are really going to value this asset this year, probably more so than ever, if we can do it right. And we have to do it with everybody's safety, from the lifeguards to, to all the members that come down. And even Mayor, I don't know if you'd even be open to, would Chad be open to even creating a few more rounds of a little bit more presence with them coming down just to run, you know what I mean? I don't know, but there's got to be some things that we can do to make sure that we enforce the separation and have signage. And I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see us rise above this and keep that open.
Well, what I want you all to think about, if you've been watching the news on all these things, we've opened up restaurants and outdoor bars and things like that. Some places have followed the rules. Some places have not. Some places have gotten to the point where their liquor license is going to get pulled. And that's going to put them totally out of business. So when I talk with Summit County Public Health, which is another health organization like Cuyahoga County, they mentioned to me the fact that most of the pools in Summit County, public pools, were not going to open. Main reason was financially, because, and they're not recommending one way or the other, but what they said is, think about the facts. So if you've got, let's say we had 200 people all total use the pool last year and buy passes and memberships. This year, because of the COVID, chances are that number is going to be at least half. So financially, there's not going to be enough money coming in, and there never really is. Because I mean, we're always at that happy little median, but if we don't have these people who are, and a few I have talked to said they're thinking about buying a backyard pool, they would not take a chance on coming out and being in. They're not concerned about the water, but when they get out of the water, there are going to be people around, and who's going to distance. And Charlie actually measured and measured our pool surface, measured our fenced-in area surface in that, and the guidelines that were really sent out by Summit County. And I don't know if Charlie wants to comment on this, but what he really said was, we don't have the guidelines to get that 6-foot distancing and have more than a certain amount of people. So we'd have to limit it. And right now, Dave, I think the limit is like if we said it was good to put 50 people in the pool or 50 in the area, it would be 20. The state says that's 25. So to me, it's kind of the thing is, who's going to be the person policing? The police can't be there all the time to say, okay, you other 25, you have pool memberships, but I can't let you in. So that's why it's not as easy a solution here. And I wanted you to know all the little ins and outs of this. And I don't mind trying it, but this pool has been open. When I took over as mayor, the former mayor said, and the service department said, Summit County wanted to close that pool, have it filled in then. That's like 20 years ago, okay? We've managed to maintain it. Summit County has given their blessing on all the things we're doing, because we don't have a zero entry pool. We don't have a lot of the things that make that a safe pool. One of the biggest things we don't have is a municipal water supply. We have one well down there that feeds the pool and the restrooms and whatever else is going. So if anything happens with any of those things, we have to buy water for the pool. We have to do things. We've overcome those year after year. We've done things with. I think if Mr. Hastings looked at some of the things his service people have recommended, they wanted to drain the pool and paint it and that. Well, times that we've done that years ago and drained it, it turned into a $15,000-$20,000 project to patch things. We have to watch how very carefully we do that because there's all the groundwater. You can't, when you drain it all the way, the sides on that thing, being 47 years old is, to blow right in. So there's all kinds of things. That's why I don't want to rush into an answer. I mean, if you want to try and maintain it, we're going to have to maintain it with water in it and having it purified. It's one of these decisions, you know, where are we at when we talked about behind me or beside me here is the master plan for the park. And we got Brian's on the line and we know that he's looked for grant money for that. It's like a couple $1 million to build that new pool. We don't have somebody to pay that. So we have the old pool and we've been trying to make it last till perhaps we'd have the money to put in that new one. Not expecting, no one expected this virus to come in and affect our lives the way it has. So that's
Mayor,
why I'm a great supporter of the pool. My kids all used it. My daughter was a lifeguard there for years. She's the head lifeguard, the whole thing. It's a great family thing. What I don't want to have it become is something that says, I went to the pool, there were more people there, and I think that's where I caught the virus. And so unless, you know, we can't really count on the lifeguards to do that, and we shouldn't. They have a job to do. They have the job to protect people from drowning. So the thing is, what I'm telling you is, I'm guessing our membership will be down a little bit, and we can't raise the price of what the memberships are. And so that means less money coming in. And then if you want to hire somebody to be down there to oversee it, or, I mean, the chances of getting volunteers are pretty unlikely.
Oh, geez.
Am I right, Janet? I mean, we've tried to do with the park board at one time. We said, well, we're going to try and have a little a vending service there and sell pop and that at the pool. That lasted, what, about 3 weeks? And then there was nobody to do it. So volunteer-wise, I'm not thinking that's going to work. But, you know, I'll do whatever you want. If the majority of the group wants to keep it open, or do you want us to just, as we had suggested, let's keep it maintained so that we could open it, the conditions get better for that. How do we want?
Mayor, do you have a recommendation? Would you have a recommendation of what you would like to see happen? Would you want to propose that?
Mm-hmm.
Who, you're asking me?
Yeah. I mean, because it falls on the administration, I think, in a way. And so, just what would you like to? I'm just wondering, what would you like to see happen? Like, would you like to see this maintained approach to give it a month, or?
I would. Well, and Dave can comment, but you know, my thought was in talking with Dave when we talked about this maintain thing, and then as the rules lessen, if it's maintained, then we should be able to open it. My whole concern, then I didn't ask him, was would he be able to get lifeguards? And he's telling me tonight he would find that way of doing it. So my thing is, if we're the kid out on the block that's doing this and nobody else is doing it, why is it? Did they figure it was too much trouble, or is there another safety thing I'm not seeing? You know, because we don't want to be the community that says, you know, that we got the virus going to your pool because you didn't, you know, how are we going to do this social distancing? That's the thing I'm kind of concerned about. So my recommendation would be maintain the pool. If these rules get lessened, we can open it later on in the summer. I think that would be my way of going, but I'll do whatever the council wants to go with.
Mr. Hastings, go ahead. You have the floor.
Just hoping I can offer a little bit of guidance in terms to give you guys something to think about. First of all, my 165 commercial pools, approximately 10% have chose to close for the summer. So that's 16 out of about, that's actually 14 out of 165. We expect 2 or 3 more, maybe 3 or 4 more to close, but we think most of them have determined at this point in time that they're not going to. And of those who have closed, typically they're lower income apartment complexes where there's an owner that can make that decision to save some money. There's 3 or 4 more summer camps that obviously don't have a whole lot of money to begin with as it is, and or the camps probably aren't even going to open. So there's typically some reason. Our normal or actually, homeowner associations or even City of Berea, City of Richmond Heights, those are both of our facilities. They are closing. They chose that 2 weeks ago, probably quite a long time ago. Just to give you a reference on that. Secondly, based on square footage of your pool, this is just your pool is 1,800 square feet. If you assume that 6 by 6 is 36 square feet, let's double that to be a little more realistic, make it 72 square feet per person. Now you're looking at about 8.5 feet by 8.5 feet per person. And that would give you 25 people in your pool. That doesn't account for households, which don't need that total square footage because they're households, and a lot of your people that go there obviously are 2 or 3 people from a household. So it's reasonable, and this is just a guess off the top of my head, back on the napkin kind of thing. It's reasonable to believe you could fit as much as 25 people reasonably well, at least by some basic math, up to 25 people in the water. I don't know how big your deck is. Maybe there's another 25 people on the deck. All in, you have a number of 50, just to give you some sense on general numbers, that's all. Additionally, if you were to close the pool today for the rest of the season, we're not opening this year, it'll cost you about $5,000 or $6,000 for what we recommend to maintain it, to take care of it, to make sure it gets winterized this fall. So come next spring, we're going to open it and you have nice, clean, clear water, just like you always would. General ballpark guess, it'll be about $5,000, give or take. Another thing you could do, 2 other options you can do too, if you want to shave a little bit of dollars off the overall price. First of all, the overall price you have now, which is somewhere around $34,000, I think, or $35,000 for the whole normal summer, it's already going to go down because you're not going to get open on time to begin with. Secondly, you could change the hours. Again, I'm as flexible as I can be. If we can do it, let's do it. So right now you're open 12 to 8 every day. You can go 1 to 7 if you want to, minimize a little bit or reduce some of your costs. You have 2 week guards on the weekend. If you don't think that's needed, we don't need the second guard, or we could go to just like 4 hours a day for that second guard if they're just needed during some busier times, but maybe we're not going to have busier times just because. And then additionally, what else do I want to share with you? And then quite a few, but at least a dozen that I'm aware of our clients have already said we want to open, but it won't be till Saturday, June 13th. They've picked certain dates. And quite frankly, they've said we need some time to make signs, get this together, decide what we're going to do, and then figure it all out. So we're going to do it. We plan to open, but we're not going to do it till pick your day, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And guess what? We get to 2 weeks from now and you decide that 4-week date is still too early, or you change your mind, you're going to close it. Okay, that's fine. Nothing's written in stone. So, close it, don't close it, but understand you have plenty of options and you don't have to pull that final trigger, if you will, until you decide to pull the final trigger. That's about it.
Okay. I think the only council member we haven't heard from is Mr. Fenn. Are you want to comment or not really?
Yeah, the pool's a nice thing. It's a benefit. It's not a requirement that the village provides a pool. And from what I'm hearing, there are more unknowns than there are knowns. The big concern is about this social distancing and who does it and when is it done, when is it appropriate, when is it not appropriate, how do you sanitize it? There's a whole cadre of things that have to be ironed out. And I think we should do basically what you and Dave maintain the pool, and come about July, June, later June, early July, see what's going on, see what other people are doing. How is it working for them? What kind of problems are they having? We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Let somebody else go through the stages of doing this, work out the kinks, and we can use whatever information that has worked and don't do what they haven't do. We don't have, there's nothing etched in stone that says we have to open the pool at all, period.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fenn. I think one of the things that made some sense that all of you talked about is we'd like to maintain it. I think if we're going to open it at all, we need to give them some kind of date, like David suggested, that somebody said June 15th or 13th or whatever, they're going to open then. I think we need to set some goal, because otherwise we're not going to have any people wanting to join. Am I right, Betty? Because we have people that call her daily wanting to know what we're going to do. And I'm not saying there's a lot of calls. I would say, what, half a dozen? Half a dozen to call as to what we're going to do. So the rest of them have not called. They're either assuming we're not opening or that we are opening. So, but
So can I do a straw poll real quick? Because we have the option of closing it. We have the option of opening it. We have the option of then this third option is maintaining it until a certain date. Okay. So how many people how many council members, show of hands, right now are at closing? You know what, Janet, I can't see you. Are you a
I
close
know. No.
John,
Okay.
instead of
Sorry.
raising your hand, I think you should take a voice poll on this so it's recorded.
Okay, well,
If
all
you
right, so
just
for the
raise
record,
your hand,
this is
it's
just
not recorded.
it's just a straw poll right now to kind of get this thing down to where
Right.
we're gonna figure
Right.
out what we're gonna do with it. So,
Okay.
all right, by a
Technically a
show of
finance
eyes.
committee. It's technically a finance committee meeting anyway. Right, the only people that will
Hi,
be voting,
Marshall.
hello. The only people that will be voting are gonna be, finance committee members anyway.
right.
Oh,
So a straw poll, or you're just talking about it.
Straw
would be
poll
appropriate.
isn't.
oh, that doesn't. Well, I thought it was a work session.
It's
Right,
okay.
exactly. That's exactly right, but you don't have to do it to vote it that way.
But
Right, but if
we can
it's-
still see,
So
we can still
Marshall,
ask
only the
members of
finance committee
council.
votes on this?
Bob, hold on. I'll recognize you in a minute here. Marshall, I can still ask all the members of council just their temperament on this.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, how many members of council are looking at doing this, maintain it until a certain date in June or July? Bob, yes or no?
I think if we're maintaining it, we should open it.
Okay. Mrs. Miller, are you a maintain it till we pick a date?
I would be a maintain and consider, maintain,
Okay.
and we could consider, maintain and delay.
Yeah.
I mean, as a I definitely, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Fenn, are you, would you support and maintain it until a certain date? By what you were saying, it sounds like that your leadership in that is to kind of err on the side of the conservative side of seeing where some of the other pools are and picking a date that might be in the middle of June or something like that, and then watching it, and then maybe waiting for a little bit more of a clarification or action by council before we open it. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
That's the only reasonable thing I can think to do.
Okay. All right. Mr. Feng, can I just to further this down so we can come to a conclusion on this, so that the administration can sell some passes, and so Mr. Hastings and his company can also provide their partnership, and we can come, and figure out how, what needs to happen with the pool. Can you, are you a June 13th, 20th, or 27th in this preliminary opening?
13th, what do you say, 13th, well, that's about the middle of those.
20th,
Those
okay.
dates.
All right, so if we right now give the administration, and this is by no means, this is not coming to, right, but like what we're looking at now is just for a motion that looks like something like a June 20th date with an increase in signage. We got to determine what's going on with bring your own chairs and deal with the other piece. And then it authorized the administration to work with Mr. Hastings on a every other hour sanitize extra 10-minute type arrangement within that agreement. And then we wait, but we at least get we say this preliminary date is June 20th, but we're going to still, we're kind of in a holding period until we feel very comfortable with that for safety purposes. Does that sound like we can get a motion around that, Mr. Fenn?
Yeah, I think that's good. And I also like Mr. Hastings' suggestion that we modify the opening hours, number one, for the lifeguards, because probably since they're going to be there, if we give them longer breaks and they're willing to at least help us sanitize the area. And I think that's extremely important that we have that function on the ground, set up and ready to go.
Okay. All right, Mr. Antel, you're looking to get recognized, please.
Yeah, Don, I just had a comment. I think if we're, I understand I'm the only one that thinks this thing should be bulldozed and whatever, but if you're gonna, I don't think you should do a temporary date or a maybe date. I think you go all in and say, I'm opening at this date, because the reason is people who are pool people, they're going to find an alternative to take the kids. They're not going to wait for it. I don't think you're going to get to do it. I think you say, we're opening on this date. If you're going to open it, say we're absolutely opening it, because you're not going to get, I think people are going to wait to sign up, and they're going to find something somewhere else to go.
And they go.
My three.
I would agree with that.
Heather, I don't think you called on you.
Heather, did you want to chat?
No, no. I mean, I agree that I think it should be delayed. I'm all for that. I'm not comfortable opening right now. I wouldn't be.
I mean, I would also, and I know this might be a little controversial, but I'd be open to, for this year, especially this summer 2020, having a membership fee, but also having an additional sanitizing fee or something like that, that we add on for the extra burden of doing those items. But knowing that with all of our signage that we're putting on, you're there at your own risk, you're dealing, and here's the rules. And if you can't abide by the rules, you're out, But I think it's reasonable to have, especially this summer, a higher use of fees. And I think you're going to be surprised. I think that if we're opening the pool, I think you'd be shocked at how many more people are going to want to come do a pool like ours, as opposed to going down to like a waterworks where there's 8 billion people packed into a small little tiny area.
Most of those aren't open.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's not many alternatives for them to go to. My concern would be that we're going to have too many people signing up and wanting to come to the pool, to be honest with you.
And I tend to agree with you on that, Don. Bob has a question.
Yeah, Mr. Barco, you're on mute.
I think if Mr. Hastings says that he can control the pool with the sanitation and everything, that we should go ahead and trust Mr. Hastings. I mean, this is his job, his business, and he's saying that he can do it. And I'm with Don. I think a lot of people are going to use the pool this year, just the way things are. And I appreciate the fact of delaying opening the pool and seeing what other people do, but I firmly believe that the pool is going to be a welcome thing in the village. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Bob. Who else would like to speak on this before I'm going to ask for someone to kind of put a motion around this?
I would just like to make one more comment. It's Janet. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Go ahead, Janet.
Okay, actually, my honest opinion about the pool is that we do not open the pool this year, but we just maintain it. Because I think it really sends the wrong message. I think that this is a very serious, deadly virus. I think we don't know how it's spreading. We don't know if people can be reinfected. I had the virus. I'm still having consequences from it from February. And it's been, I have family members that have tested positive in New York City. I have family members in Colorado that have had it, and it's working with the public. 3 daughter-in-laws who are watching this happen in real time. So I am very seriously on the side of taking this virus extremely seriously, and it is deadly. So I would love to see the pool maintained because it's a wonderful feature. I think that it's irresponsible for us to open it and try to be spraying sanitizer on things when we don't know how deadly it can be. And I wouldn't have my kids at a public pool right now. So that's the other extreme. I mean, a couple people here want to completely close it and bulldoze it. You know, I would like to just, I've got a kind of middle ground. I'd like to maintain it for the sake of the pool, but I don't think it should be open this year at all. That's my side. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make sure, I would like to add in that Mr. Hinkle put this in the meeting. He said, I would like to suggest that a reliable budget be worked up for operating the pool entirely by Hastings staff in accordance with the state of Ohio standards, perhaps by the mid-June date. That operation might require severely limiting the head count within the fence by gatekeeping, not just by community cooperation, plus additional continuous sanitizing. It seems likely that additional employee headcount will be required, hence additional cost over the traditional operation. So that is Mr. Hinkle offering from the public. Appreciate Mr. Hinkle's wisdom and his input into our meetings as well. So I think that was very wise and something that we should all consider. Mr. Hastings, would you be open to, like reevaluating a quote that had your crew taking on that responsibility?
I think I would at this point. You know, I've actually learned a lot tonight. Just hearing all of your concerns, good, bad, or otherwise, and helping me process through the whole, like I said, none of us have done this before, right? So there is no right answer here. I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer. They're all good answers, quite frankly, and good feedback from everybody. So I appreciate the feedback myself, just helping me learn. So along those lines, I would say, yes, I would be open to considering it. And although Mr. Hinkle mentioned possible additional costs, but who knows? At the way it ends up, you're gonna, if you open up 3 weeks after Memorial Day, as it is, which is June 13th, and if you were to limit some hours, maybe 1 to 7 versus 12 to 8, and if you have our lifeguard give them an extra 10 minutes every other break or 15 minutes, whatever it takes, we have to figure it out, to do their sanitation process, the routines. The cost of a second person, full time, if you will, or at least on days we think, we might have some sort of reaching of some sort of capacity when we need to have somebody enforcing it. It might come out as a wash or even less than the overall number is right now if it was a normal year, but it's just hard to say. But certainly I'm willing to stay open and work with you guys on it and figure out what we can do together.
Does any members of council have any follow-up conversations on this?
I think that's a great idea. I think that let Hastings do what he does best and figure out what the best way to handle this is based on his experience, and come back and say, here's the game plan, here's the dates, here's what we see, this is how we're going to do it.
All right. Then I would like to see Ms. Pitchford.
Yep. Just for clarity purposes for everyone, Right, we are under a multi-year agreement with Hastings, is my understanding. I think this is year 2 of perhaps 3,
Correct.
right? And so from a procedural perspective, I'm not sure that the village council needs to make any motion at this point, right? If we're
Okay.
going to proceed in this manner, and we've got a contract, what we might need to do is if Mr. Hastings has a proposal that he's going to put together and it requires an amendment to the contract, then we can bring legislation next week or in 2 weeks to do that. But that'll be before the pool opens. So that would be my thought.
Well, either way, it looks to me like, and we can do this in an informal fashion of support or just even verbal support from members of council. But it sounds to me like we would like Hastings to provide a recommendation based upon all the different factors we talked about, which is hours, sanitation. Okay. And we would want an increase in signage. I think that's something that the administration is going to have to take a look at from a signage standpoint, and from a bring your own chairs. That's not an issue, right? Bring your own chairs. And council has in this package of what I'm talking about, it looks like there's a willingness to look at a targeted opening date of June 20th around those factors. Is that the consensus of what I'm hearing from everybody here?
Yeah,
Mayor?
I'm all for that.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
I still think you need to get a firm date and tell people we're selling memberships, we're opening this date. We'll give you a refund if we totally don't open, because I don't think people are going to sign up. I mean, we mentioned there could have 25 people in that pool max. I don't think we've ever had 25 people in that pool that last few summers at one time.
There's been 2 times in the last 5 years.
All right. I'm not anti-pool in general. I'm anti-wasting money. That's my.
Yeah. That pool is the ideal social distance pool in all of Northeast Ohio. But the issue is I have a feeling that it's going to become very popular because there aren't that many alternatives, and most of the other pools are a lot bigger and they have a lot more people come to them. Our pool is very quaint and small, so it's going to be very attractive for a lot of people this year who are thinking they're going to be distant. So we're going to have to control the gate there. We're going to have to watch that. Mr. Pitford?
So I think that the mayor can make the determination with respect to June 20th, to Mr. Antel's point. And then at the next council meeting, we can address an amendment based on Mr. Hastings' proposal if we need to do that on a financing perspective. I'd have to pull the contract back out. I can't remember off the top of my head how it's structured. And if we just need to, switch out for 2020 for funding purposes, or however that is set up, we can do that. And if we don't need to do anything, then we don't. But I think it's the mayor's prerogative to open and close the pool. And I think he's heard the consensus here of council. If he wants to do something different, again, I would tell you that I think he has the authority to do that, but I don't think that's his intention. In speaking with him beforehand and now, I think he was genuinely interested in hearing what you guys wanted to do.
Right. I want to say that all of your input has greatly been appreciated. And I think all of us working together, we understand where you're coming from. And I think everyone realizes there is a concern. So I think June 20th is a good choice. That's actually the day summer begins. It's a Saturday. We can market that. I think with the people that have called Mrs. Klingenberg, if we can give them a date like that, and as Dave Hastings has said, we have shorter hours and shorter time frame altogether. We'll have to look at what we might want to try and charge more for. I don't think it would be very much because of the fact that shortened season and whatever. So we'd have to look at that. We do have all the sign-in sheets from the last couple of years. I would beg to differ with some of you that said that we never had over 25 at one time there. We did have that on some of the weekends. We got really hot, and the lifeguards, I mean, you drive in there and it's not a bare space, but you never know how it's gonna go. If it's a hot summer, it's gonna be busy. If it's a rainy spring or something, which we're gonna be through the spring, we're not gonna have that. So I think the summer's gonna be there. So I'm willing to take time with Mr. Hastings and look and see what he wants to do and make that work out if that's, and the majority of you appear to want to do that same thing. So thank you for your input.
All right. Thanks, everybody, on that subject. We'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Mr. Hastings, for showing up. You might want to, you feel free to be able to take off unless you really want to hear the rest of the business. So
No, I want to stay. Thank you
more
all
than
very-
welcome.
Well, thank you all very much, and I'll wait to hear from either Mayor or Betty, maybe tomorrow or the next day, about all the details you want to work out. We'll figure something out.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, guys. Mr. Mayor, would that conclude your mayor's report? You're on mute. Mayor? Mayor, you're live.
I'm
now.
unmuted
Go ahead.
now. Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't understand. I thought I did that once, but evidently I didn't do it correctly. So, all right. Yeah, the next point, we, as I said, talk with the road crew and that. We have several different projects that we want to do this summer. And one thing we are going to do, though, is we'll have the pool. It went down today. They were working on the pavilion and the whole thing. So the other thing we were looking at is moving out picnic tables or stacking them up or doing whatever we need to do so we can maintain that distancing in the pavilion. And Mr. Pitchford was working on some phraseology I could get put on a couple signs that says you're using this pool, pavilion, or playground at your risk because of the coronavirus. And please understand you're doing you need to do social distancing and so forth and so on. So I'll work with them on that. We can get 3 signs made up to go in each one of those areas. You're okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Does that conclude your report then?
Yeah, yes, it does.
All right. Thank you very much. Betty, I'm going to take you off of mute. What do you have for us for finance?
Nothing. I'm
That
just,
works.
I'm listening and fine tune with Dave Hastings and so forth and the mayor, and we'll come up with some things that we need to put together and plan for this pool opening.
All right. Thank you, Betty.
Mhm.
Okay. So before we set the council agenda for June 9th, any members of council have any inputs from your committees that you would like to throw into the meeting? Mr. Fenn, because I can't see you. Are you good with?
We're good.
Thank you. All right, appreciate that. All right, so for the council meeting for June 9th, it looks like we have an approval of minutes that will come to everybody. At that moment, we have an ordinance that's ready, authorizing the mayor to open and close the pool. Oh, excuse me. We'll see where he's at with that. We'll leave that on the agenda. And then that is the only ordinances and resolutions. Betty, Mayor, or Marshall, is there anything else that you see that's going to need to be in the council meeting?
Betty and I have been working on a potential resolution related to funding for COVID-19. We have to it's a new state law issue. It's separate from the federal law one that we passed. But that law has not actually been enacted yet. Is my understanding at the General Assembly. If the General Assembly passes it, we may have legislation in June. But as of now, right, not yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any other new or old business? Seeing none, it's good to see everybody, and I hope that everybody staying safe and healthy, and your families are healthy as well. So without anybody else piping in for any last minute questions, we'll go ahead. Nothing else? All right. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:25. Everybody have a great week. All right. Thank you.